Now then, looky what we got here. A diesel lift pump. For those who don't know, this is the pump that lifts the fuel from the fuel tank into the injection pump on a diesel. Yeah. And that's bolted on the crankcase, and this comes against the cam and does that. Apart from it's supposed to do something, and it doesn't. Only right at the end does it do anything at all. So something is seriously worn out. Now looking here, that doesn't seem very worn. That's the follower that runs on the pump cam, which is part of the camshaft. So there's a bit of a wobble there, but it's not that bad. So I suspect the diaphragm is packed up. This is the original for when I bought the tractor, which is a long and a bit more time ago. Way maybe in the, I don't know really, maybe the late 80s, something like that. Yeah, so I'm going to clean it off, and I bought a diaphragm kit, or a lift pump repair kit, and let's dig into it. But you know, these half a mile of built up muck needs to be removed first, so I'll get back to you when I've done that. Okay, I've given it a bit of a clean up. Now it's a very long time since I've had one of these apart. There we go. And there's a filter there with a little hole in it, which isn't a lot of good. Okay, hopefully that... is there a load of muck in there? Yes, there is. Loads and loads of muck. So that will all want a good wash out. But what's up with that screwdriver? That's better. Let's have this apart. It can't be that difficult. So what happened was, it was starting alright, and then one time it took quite a lot of time to wind it over. I'm thinking that, you know, that is a distinct change, so that's not right. And I just thought, Anyway, the next time it was a bit worse, and I just thought something's not right. So I had the diesel filter off. I took the diesel filter element out, and it didn't seem that bad. And the bottom of the bowl, it's got a cast bowl, aluminium or zinc bowl at the bottom of the filter, and normally you would get muck in the bottom, and there wasn't that much. I thought, well, that's okay. So I put a different filter in, a new filter, and then I thought, right, well, let's bleed it through. And when I came to this little lever here, there wasn't any feel at all. Now normally you press that and then you feel resistance. So that told me that once it was running, it was fine, because this pump was running fast enough on this cam. but just winding over, yeah, that's rather disgusting, isn't it? But just winding over on the starter, this pump wasn't shifting enough. From what I remember, that just pulls out, but I might be wrong. And we have two valves in there and there. Let's just zoom down a bit. Yeah, and there are some replacement valves in this kit. So this here, this is a Vapormatic kit. So that there, where are we? Let's just, there's a notch there. Okay, so you just turn it, and there we go. That wants a really incredibly intensive clean, and when we put it back in, we just turn it. There we go. So we have a spring and a collet of some form, yeah, which I don't know if you can see, but there's a shoulder there, and the spring washer sits against that. So I'm just going to go and clean this all up. That should, there we go. And we have a washer on there. There we go. And the spring. Well, it doesn't feel that bad. But there's a ridge there. So I think it's quite deformed, and I'm assuming the valves are pretty bad. So here we go. We need to clean that lot out before we go any further. Right, I'll get back to you shortly. I'm just looking at these valves and blowing through them and what have you, and I've just pulled that out of that valve there, and that was holding that open. So a bit of something. I'm going to have to clean the tank out, aren't I? But I'm going to test these valves, because if you can see that there and there, the valves are actually staked in, so it would be quite a job to take those out. So I'm going to give them a really good clean, and I'm going to test once it's clean. I'm going to test by sucking and blowing to see whether they're sealing, and if they're sealing, I'm going to leave those alone. I'm going to change the diaphragm, even though it sort of doesn't look too bad, but it feels a bit sort of rigid. Okay, let's start again. There's some things that I found out. I looked at, now where is it? There's a channel called Then and Now Automotive, and I watched a lift pump rebuild on there, And that seemed to be the only one who actually talked about changing these valves, which was interesting, very interesting. And he reckoned you lever them out with a screwdriver. And I saw him do it. Right. I think I'm just going to have to remove or just cut back those, they've staked it in place. So I'm just going to get a Stanley knife and cut those back. So let's zoom down. Because I'm thinking, well, I know because I tested this, those valves are just not up to standard. I was hoping we could get away with it, but no. Now, we should be able to lever those out. Oh, they're really in there. Whoever put these together didn't want them to come out. Ah, we're starting to get something. I mean, these don't work very well, so we're getting it loose. I'm trying to do it here, but really I could do with putting this in the vise. There we go. We're starting to get some movement. Yeah. There. So as we say in Monty Python, here we see the violence inherent in the system. There. Right. Now, hopefully, there's a seal. Those will want cleaning up. Yeah, they really staked them in there very tight. So I'm just going to get this other one out. Now this one, yeah, it's blank. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut back the staking and then lever it out. Are we still? We are still, yeah. It's amazing when you get digging into something, you forget about the camera. Absolutely forget about it. And then you come back and you realise you've been out of shot for the last 10 minutes. And that was the most important bit of footage. Anyway, this is going to be more awkward. So I'm going to just go to the vise and take this out, and I'll get back to you in a moment. So I've got both valves out. Once I'd seen it, you know, somebody's doing it, then you can have a little bit of confidence. But on this one there is these staking marks that really will want cutting back quite a long way. The only thing is you don't want to damage that sealing surface in the bottom there. Right, give me a minute. Okay, that's that cleaned up. So those are those old valves out the way. Now, of course, that one was in the blind hole. Yep. And that one was in that one. So you've got to get these the right way round. Yes, bit of a disaster if you put them in the wrong way round. Right, I just had to go off also to do the readings on the gas kiln. We've got a firing going on. So, does that fit in there? That is a fibre washer that goes down on there. Push that down. Okay, we have a valve and it was that way round. Okay, so now we want a socket that goes over there, and that is not the right size. Okay, so we want a bigger size socket. Let me go and find one. Okay, now you don't want to damage this, obviously, these little, so, and that socket goes over there just, and it's a mighty tight fit in there. So let's give it a go. We're all learning here. Huh. Right, now that socket won't go down in there, and that socket won't go down in there, so I'm just wondering how I'm going to knock this down. I suppose just gentle taps in. That seems to be doing it. The main thing is you don't want to deform the valve body. It's going in there though. I'm thinking that's all the way in. Right. Right. We've cleaned all this lot out and blown it all out, so there's no bits of aluminium left in there. Just checking, because that could be a little disaster, couldn't it? You get the new valve in there and there's a wayward aluminium scraping. Right, that's the fibre washer pushed down in there. Yeah, good, we can still see. Right, here's the other valve. So they're obviously designed to crush into these holes. So I'm just wondering if we can do that. That's good. So that's in there very tight. So this one is the difficult one to get in. That one, because you're actually able to knock on that whole surface and not having to work around this valve body here, it's a lot easier to fit. There we go. Okay, so we've got the valves changed. Now we're going to go back to the original footage. So I'm going to, this diaphragm, I'm thinking it's, well, it's not that bad, but you know, it's been there a long time. Let's put a different one in. It's got this bulge here, whereas this one, the Vapormatic one, is flat. So we'll put the new one in. Yeah, we have a new filter there, which will be a lot better than the one with a hole in it. Yeah, which is probably why that bit of muck got into that valve and started creating all this nuisance. So now I've got to wash that lot out. So I'll get back to you again. Okay, that's that cleaned out. Now the new diaphragm and the spring and the spring retainer. So the spring retainer, can we see? Zoom down a bit. So it just goes over there. And this was about like a bit like those on the old Leylands and stuff like that. You had this sort of circular washer that used to fight you to on the brake, rear brakes, on the drum brakes. That sort of arrangement would hold the brake shoes in place. So let's just have a look. Right, let's just zoom out a bit. Where are we? We're over here. So this is obviously a universal gasket set. I don't know what that is at all. So we had this washer, fibre washer, on there. So I suppose I better put it back on. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be one in the kit. Okay, so that's that, but there's just one extra bit that I want to add in, and it's this thing, this rubber seal. Now in the manual, if I can find where it is, let's zoom down on this. There. Okay. Spring, number 11. Number 12's a washer, and number 13's a fibre washer. And that's the only seal that it shows. Let's have a look. Number 12. So, let's have a look. Number 12. Washer, metal. Number 13, washer, fabric. So there doesn't seem to be any seal, but that rubber goes in there on top of number 12 and inside the spring. So let's just have a look at that. So let's just take this washer off, this fibre washer, which is obviously a sort of very rural seal. Okay, then that washer comes off, and then apparently that goes on there like that and inside the spring. So there we go. Are we seeing this? Hopefully. So that rubber is then inside the spring, and it's a bit of a seal around that round shaft there. Okay, so I hadn't got a clue what that was because there wasn't one on this one originally. So hopefully that's a bit of an update. And it's inside the spring, so it's not going to cause a problem. So let's crack on and put this diaphragm in this refurbished valve body. And then this goes in there somehow. There we go, done it. And then this goes on there. Now that's the in, so the in goes there. I remember from when I took it off. One screw, that's a slightly longer one because that is not one of these. That is one of the only screw that holds the top on. So it goes there. Okay. And there's no gasket because you've got the diaphragm acting as a seal. Okay. Now do a Jeff Bradshaw. Start them all before you tighten any. I learnt that a long time ago on a I think it was a C12, which is a BSA pre-unit 250 single, and they had tin chain cases with about, well, at least 20 screws all the way around the outside. And the first time I did it, of course, I put a screw in and tightened it up, and then I learnt instantly. Start them all before you tighten any. You tighten one and all the rest will not start. There we go. One new diaphragm, and it'll have a new screen on the top here. And I'll have the valve out the bottom of the tank and clean all the tank out. So obviously over the years, even though where are we? Yeah, even though my fuel funnel has got a filter in it, and I also put a piece of t-shirt over it, so that bit of whatever it was, looked like a bit of wood to me, a bit of shaving or something. It could have been floating around in the tank for 20 years. And finally, somehow, it gets through all the bits and then gets stuck in one of the valves of the lift pump. There you go. Okay, rant over on that one. That goes on there. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We need a little bit of something to hold that. Then this cap, that rubber is bound to be rock hard. Well, it's not that bad, but we've got a new one. Okay, and then we should have the screw there. It goes on anyway. It's good that there's that new screen in there. Very good. Right. That won't feel anything at the moment because there's no fuel in it. But we have got also a gasket. Yeah. I wonder if that is supposed to go on there. It probably is. Let's do it anyway. Let's take the original off. Put a new one on. Sometimes it's dangerous putting new stuff on. Because they're not as good as the old ones. Right, that looks like that's in place. Right, this is together now. Well, that seems to be working. It's certainly blowing air. Brilliant. But basically this video is just a little investigation into what's in here. And it's not a great deal, but having the valves staked in could cause a bit of hassle. Okay, if you've got any experience of this sort of thing, I would love to hear from you. Otherwise, comments and what have you. But this is one of the things that happens when you're running old machinery. You know, it's beyond its run design time, or whatever you call it, and things just go, no, I'm not doing that anymore, and you have to dig in there with no fear. You've got no fear, but also no expectation that it'll fix it perfectly, because when you start meddling with stuff, other things come to light. Catch up with you soon. Cheers for now.